Welcome once again to Sovereign Sisters podcast. I'm Angela Atkins along with Tammy Haynes and Lisa Richards, and we're here unfiltered and uncensored tonight. So sit back. Hope you'll join in with us. Give us your comments, and we're going to go for a ride tonight. What's on your mind, ladies?
Way too much.
Absolutely. Oh, do you want to start, Tammy?
Nope, go for it.
Well, so I went to a spiritual expo for the first time since before COVID this weekend. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was an expo that I went to several years ago, prior to COVID, of course. And it was a great expo, but it was very odd. Just seeing what I think the 2 years sitting at home in seclusion for people has done to them, on top of those walking around who I'm sure have the jibbity jab running through their veins. So, before people would come up and they'd be like, "Oh, tell me about this. What are these about?" Because we do the pyramids, the meditation pyramids. We have some set up for them to meditate and try, and we always have people sitting in there trying the pyramids and this and that. And there were about 265 vendors, I think. So
Wow.
It was a big event.
It was a big event.
It was a big event. Yeah. And a lot of them were like doing readings, medium readings, psychic readings, energy healers, things like that. Out of the whole weekend, we had one person that actually came up and said, "Tell me about these." Every other person, they'd come up to the table. Most of the people, I would say, they would come up to the table, act like they were interested. But as soon as you'd make eye contact with them, they would put their head down and like scurry away.
Oh,
It was very odd. I've never been to an expo either, like a spiritual expo, where they were serving beer and wine. Isn't that crazy? Like, why would you have a low vibration portion? Like, obviously they didn't segregate. They invited the demons too, I guess. And I have nothing against drinking, and it's all has its time and place, and I do it as well, when hanging out with friends or whatever, but not at a spiritual expo.
Right.
I think that's the wrong place for it. So that was odd.
How many people were wearing masks?
One.
Oh,
only one person I saw out of the thousands of people. Yeah. Yeah. So it was funny though, because I have a ton of different models, different pyramids on my website. And unintentionally, I only made 5 of the ones that I make and took them with me. And I didn't realize until I had made them all and was packing up to leave that almost all of them were blue. They had blue in them, which really relates to what's going on in the world right now, because several years ago, my first expo I went to, it was all indigo and root chakra. So it was all third eye and root chakra. So it could tell it pretty much told you where everybody was at in the world right now.
Right.
They needed to start trusting their intuition more and grounding themselves, connecting more with nature and stuff. And now it's the throat chakra, which is about communication. It's about truth, not only noticing the truth, but speaking the truth. And not only the truth about what's happening in the world, but realizing the truth about yourself as well, And I could really tell a lot of the people they're just scared still, and they don't know who to believe anymore. That's where it's all at, is the truth. They don't know who to believe anymore. And so my biggest thing, several years ago, I got into mediumship. I learned mediumship and I learned energy healing. And especially the first reading I got from a medium was the most profound healing it could ever have happened for me. It proved to me there was no death, that our loved ones in spirit are happy and they're healthy and they're free of pain and they're with us anytime we need them to be. And I remember saying to the medium afterwards, you have the most amazing job. You just proved to me that there's no death, that our loved ones are with us all the time. And she goes, "Well, you can do this too. Everybody can. It's like playing the piano. Some people are better at it than others." And I was like, What? I didn't know that. I thought you had to be born with this. Why was I never taught this? And so from that point on, I learned mediumship. and I learned energy healing. And I was so excited to share those experiences and those profound forms of healing with friends and family. And I did for a while. But then I just got to the point where I was getting tired. I was creating more desperation than healing,
Mm,
because instead of coming to you for one reading and they would come back to you for more and more, wanting to support you, but they weren't doing anything to support
right.
themselves and their own power. And that's what I wanted. So I stopped doing readings and I stopped doing healings because I didn't want that desperation I was creating anymore. I wanted to teach people that they can do this themselves. We all have the same powers. We have to start tapping into these, because that's where we're going to win this spiritual war, through the spiritual connections that we create. And most of us are just walking around like zombies down here, not knowing any of this, you
Right.
know?
Don't you think, Lisa, that's part of the issue? People don't realize this is a spiritual war. People think of war with guns and, bullets downrange. They don't think of it as being a psychological, spiritual, internal type of war that's really that we're being attacked in every single way possible. But instead of looking at it face on, people are retreating and hiding in the fear. So I really think that's an important point to put forward,
Yeah.
that if you're living in fear, you're missing it. You
Mhm.
really are. You're missing life. You're missing out on all the things that you can do to get yourself out of the situation you're in now. Just by hiding your face or not communicating, we need to communicate. I mean, that's an absolute necessity to communicate with other beings. And so, people who've stopped communicating and people who've stopped engaging, even if you're going to an expo, wouldn't you expect people to communicate, whether it's with you or other vendors or even just other participants? You're missing out on a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it was funny on my drive there, it was in Cincinnati. So there are some poor sections of Cincinnati, and as I was driving through, I was just thinking, so many people are afraid of driving through or being around the poor people, and acting like they're the bad people. Most of these people would rather live in shambles than do anything bad to make themselves better. That's why they live in the slums. That's why they live in shambles. The people that we should be scared of are the ones who have done the bad things to achieve
Mhm.
greatness, the ones who are in the elite homes with their fancy mansions and their fancy cars. I'm not saying all of those people are bad. A lot of them bust their butt to get there, but a lot of them do bad things to get that stuff as well,
Right.
more than the poor people would.
Right. Yeah, I'm noticing, it seems like people are in more fear now than they were a couple of years ago. I mean, obviously during the pandemic, everybody was fearful. But it just seems like, I'm just seeing so many people wearing masks again. I'm like, seriously? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm calling them out these days.
Yeah.
From the beginning, yeah, there was about a month I said something's not right. I wasn't fearful, but I was like, something's not right, because I was still working at that time and I was trying to piece all the things together. I said, this is like a coordinated attack. It's happening everywhere. It's not just happening in one place. It's spread across the world, and so it kind of ticked my senses to pay attention, look into it. So I never got fearful. Of course, I never wear a mask. I don't do the silly things like standing 6 feet apart. I actually laugh at people who told me to. And, talking to somebody behind plexiglass, I would always peek around and go, excuse me, what about this? So all of it didn't make sense to me. But for people to live 4 years in fear, it's become ingrained in
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
They need to have something shock them out of it. And I don't have the answer, but I know now when I see somebody wearing a mask, I say something like, "Hey, it's been 4 years and you haven't learned anything."
Right.
And, they look at me like, "You can't be talking to me." And they run away. And I'm thinking, maybe if I just shock them or do something to that, like a little slap verbally, I would never touch another
Yeah.
person. But to
Yeah.
get them to wake up, that you need them to do you need to do something to get them to start thinking.
Well, and I've been thinking a lot about this, that I have really come to the realization that this is their journey.
Yeah.
We can throw them little red pills here and there, but it is up to them to do the work, and figure it out, stay out of fear, and get out of whatever funk they're in.
But
Um,
Tammy, let me just stop you there. It may be their journey, but they are actually interfering with our timeline. By them
I don't.
staying, by them staying in fear, it is taking this timeline longer and longer to go through whatever process we have to go through. And
Possibly, but that's where I think the timelines are splitting. I think the time well, we've been having deep discussion about this here the last couple of days about timelines and manifestation and things like that. And I think that most of us are on a different timeline than some of the others. Okay. So we don't see all of the bad. I get people to come in and say, "Oh my God, the world's going to shit." And I'm like, well, it depends on your perspective. Do you feel like it is? Are you in fear about what's going on? Or are you on the timeline that things are going to be great? We're changing this world. We're changing our lives. We're becoming more sovereign. I think that's the big difference. Those who are still stuck in the 9 to 5, you know, do whatever you're being told to do. And then you got those of us that are sovereign, self-employed, don't have that boss. We're our own boss. We can do what we want. I think I tend to disagree that they're holding us back. I don't
I
think
don't think
that's.
they're holding us back personally. I think they're holding the time space continuum of what's going on. They're
Mm,
keeping it kind of at that pace of slowly going through. Whereas if more people stood up, if more people became sovereign, if more people took on the responsibility to be the best that they can be
mhm,
rather than what somebody else tells them to be, I
right.
think this would not take as long as it is.
Well, if we would all stand up and stop complying to the stupid shit that's going on, then
Absolutely.
this would be done in a day. And they keep saying that over and over again. If we would just wake up and stop letting them control us, this would be done. But too many people are walking around in fear. Well, what if they do this? What if I don't do this right? And that to me, I think, is what's holding a lot of this back. you
Exactly.
know, yeah,
And
I
especially in a country that has what 400 million guns. There's more of us than there is of them.
right,
What are you afraid of? I don't get it.
right.
Well,
Most of these
they're
people
afraid of death. They're afraid of death. They're
what's
afraid
the
of
big thing?
not only physical death, but death of their job, death of their
Mhm.
homestead,
Yeah.
death of their family. And that's why, so on the way to the expo this weekend, I got the message that I need to start doing readings and healings again. But
Good.
I need to start shutting them off after the first one. And the only reason that I got that message is because if you've never had a reading before and you've never had a healing before, that very first one is the catalyst that will launch you into action. And that's what we need. I mean, it really does. That first reading that I got from a medium, I felt I had a team of spirits
Mhm.
walking with me, protecting me, like 20, 30 people behind me, just protecting me. And I think I said this on one of our podcasts here. The very next day after my reading, I was walking a dog, and I always walk the same path. And I got to this intersection where I usually cross the street, and I heard that I need to stay on this side of the street. And so I did. And as I'm getting halfway down the block, a truck comes screaming around the corner
Mhm.
and slams right into the
Mm,
bank where me and the dog would have been walking,
right.
and backs up, almost hits us. We had to jump out of the way. But I mean, just that alone proved that yes, they are with me. They are
Mhm.
protecting me. They
Right.
are helping me. And, people have that disconnect from their intuition.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what mediumship is as well. So, my plan is to start doing readings and healings for people again, but only one for that catalyst. And then
Mhm.
I'm going to start doing classes and teaching people how to develop their intuition and help and start listening to that internal guidance. Because when you're in fear all the time, that's all you're thinking about.
Right. Right.
And it's always the ego portion of your brain that's living in the fear. Our intuition is always accurate and it's always there, but so many people don't even hear it anymore
Right.
because their ego has been pushing it aside for so long. It's always that very first thing that pops into your head is the truth. but most of them are so soft spoken now they don't even hear it because their
Right.
ego is
Right.
just blasting it out of there,
Right. Well,
So
and
it's
that old saying, "Trust your gut,"
yeah,
has people kind of just like, yeah, whatever. But
yeah,
once you have trusted your gut, or you listen to your intuition, and it was right off the bat, that's the eye-opening experience that you realize, wow, I really need to trust what my intuition is telling me,
yeah.
because that those are things that I've done in the past. And I always say, I joke around. I'm like, I think my intuition just stopped talking to me, because there's times where it's like, what, come on, tell me something, but they always say you need to ask too. I
Yeah.
mean, it'll come through with whatever you want, but sometimes you just need to ask for some guidance. If you're really struggling, ask for some guidance,
Yeah.
and see where it takes you, you
And
know?
I think that connection, I mean, going back to the spirituality point, I think too many people have lost touch with God.
Mhm.
I think we really need to start helping people in the sense that we live it as an example. When
Mhm.
people talk to me about, well, how come you don't get scared by this, or how come you feel like you can do this? I'm like, because I talk to God, and He leads me, and I follow what He says. And they look at me like, what? And I'm thinking, you've lost that connection, and I think people need to find that connection again.
Well, I think that alone is confusing for people too, because, you know, I think one of the dumbest things for people to do is to be born into a religion and just blindly believe that own religion for your entire life and not look into any more, because there are over 4,000 religions in the world. They all have different versions of the Bible. So which one is true? Only one can be really true, right? And then if everyone believes that if you don't believe in our religion, you're going to hell, then obviously everybody is going to hell.
Mhm.
So it just doesn't make any sense. And obviously there's something bigger than we are.
Mhm.
But you can't really sit and say that it's what it is until you are in the afterlife and you've visited it. You know what I mean? I mean, you
Right.
really can't. I think
Right.
it's something that people want to hold on to. I believe in a bigger power, but you have to take everything down here with a grain of salt anymore, especially after a few years. Why would the Bible be the only true book that's not been touched by, you know what I mean, by the bad guys? And it's the one book that they allow in the prisons, for reform. That would be probably the first book that I would edit then, if you're going to reform
Yes.
some criminals, so it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm
Right.
sure it does for a lot of people too. I know the younger generation are really tossing around a lot of different ideas and trying to figure this stuff out, but that's really what we have to do.
Right.
We were taught not to talk about this stuff. Not
You
don't
can
talk
talk
about
about religion or
politics.
politics, yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's a reason why,
Yeah.
because it's so important.
And that's
That's what I
exactly
said.
what we need to start talking about again.
Yeah.
We need to start. I mean, I have a friend, love her dearly, but her tunnel vision on the Bible, and when I tell her this is dogma, it's not spirituality, that's a different thing. Religion and spirituality are totally different, and you're going down one path lockstep with what you've been taught, and you can't break free of it. So it doesn't allow that open mindedness about what spirituality can really give to you, what you can learn in life, and how you can grow, rather than you must follow this religious dogma to the letter or else you won't go to heaven.
Right.
And I'm thinking, how is that? How is that a spiritual thing? You're not going to heaven if you don't follow what we say? That
Yeah.
that sounds a little tyrannical to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we were in talking about intuition and how powerful we are. We were having really good discussion about manifestation, and I was asked to bring up an example of something that I've manifested, and I actually came up with a couple different things, and that just kind of right off the bat, and I wanted to ask both of you: have you manifested anything? Have you done something that that you actually manifested that to happen?
Mm. I have two stories. One's
Okay.
not so good, but the other one is good. So I'll start with the one. You can tell me which one it is.
Well, that's okay. Okay, so go ahead and say that, because one of the questions that came up was, if you manifest something that may be good for you, but what happens if it's not so good for someone else? It, like a cause and effect type of thing.
Oh, yeah,
So,
like the
yeah,
butterfly effect. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's a good question. Well,
Yeah.
so, when my ex and I were together, we were together for 12 years, and the last 5 years of our relationship were kinda just we were kinda roommates, we knew we didn't have anything in common, we just kept to ourselves separately and went on about our lives, and anytime I would bring up wanting to end the relationship, he would get furious, total narcissist, threaten to burn the house down or smash all the concrete, cement sidewalks that he laid, and this and that. So I just stopped talking about it. And that's when I started going to the expos and really meeting new people like minds and kept my mind busy that way. And so I went to several expos, and every time I'm there, I talk about the power of manifestation and the pyramids, how they're amplifiers and antennas. And when you use them for manifestation, it manifests things a lot quicker into reality. And I was just so busy making pyramids and then going to the expos. I came home from one, and I remember sitting in my living room looking around, and I'm like, I don't have any of my own pyramids in my own house, And so I went out to my workshop and got like 5 or 6 of them, and I sat them on my desk, and I started looking around the room again, and I envisioned myself taking all of our pictures off of the wall and taking them up to the attic and turning them so that the back was facing out so nobody could see them anymore. And right then in my mind, I heard that he'd never leave unless he had someone to take care of him.
Mm.
And I knew that was true. And so right then I said, find him a girlfriend. I placed that order with the universe one time. That's all you have to do. You don't continue to say it over and over and over again, because when you do, that's saying that it's not happening again. It's still not happening. It's still not happening. You place the order one time and leave it be. And when it's ready to manifest, it will. So I completely forgot about that. And it was probably about 2 weeks later, I came home from another expo, and I was like, I wonder, I'm just going to text him and, get him riled up again, I guess. So I was like, obviously our relationship has fizzled. Can we talk about it? And he instantly replied, yes. When I get home, we'll talk. And I was like, oh, wow, he wants to talk. And I was surprised. And I was thinking, when he comes home, he's going to jump on the lawnmower and just ignore me anyway. He comes right home, sits in the chair right next to me, starts talking like you and I are talking right now, all calmly. We both mutually agree. Yes, we should split up and move on. And even after we decided that, he was joking, saying, oh, I think I like you more now than I did 5 minutes ago when we were together, And I was like, you're an idiot. We were just joking around. But he said, give him 2 weeks to get out. And I was like, okay. So he was going to move in with his friend. The day he moved out, I had a dream that night that he had a girlfriend. And it was this girl that he worked with that I already had suspicions about months before. But of course, I was crazy for thinking that, know? So the next day I had it was a different dream, but the same outcome. 3 nights in a row, I kept having a dream that he had a girlfriend, and it was this girl. And so I finally texted him, and I was like, I keep having a dream that you have a girlfriend. Do you have a girlfriend? And he's like, he didn't respond. So I knew right away that he had a girlfriend, And I said, you better respect me enough to tell me if you have a girlfriend. And he finally replied, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you any more than I already had, so we were kind of keeping it on the down low. And I just laughed. I was just laughed because at that moment I realized that I manifested this. And the only reason I was free now was because I manifested that, And within 2 months later, I found the love of my life. We're still together now, and I wouldn't have found him without opening up that space in the first place. I had a placeholder, and that placeholder wouldn't leave. And until, that's the only reason that I found my true love, is because I got rid of the placeholder, but I manifested that, I know I did.
Yeah. Do you have one, Angela?
I'll be honest, manifesting is not something that I have experienced. Let's put that, maybe I've done it, maybe I haven't, but in my wheelhouse, I never called it manifesting.
Okay.
I've always felt that if I put myself in the right situations, if I thought the right thoughts, did the right work, I would get what I wanted. And for the most part, it's like when I started out, I was in the theater for years and going through a divorce. I have no usable skills at that point because you can't really make a lot of money in the theater. The only way I could do it was because I had somebody else supporting me. So I just put it out there in my mind that I'll find something. And I never worried about it. It wasn't like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like, something will show up. And down the path I went, I got a job that eventually led to a great IT career. And I say great, meaning financially, so I could
Mhm.
support my kids because I was then a single mom. But at that point, I never thought of it being manifesting. I just put it out there. I'm going to need a job. I'm going to
Mhm.
have to do something because I can't do this. What I actually loved, what I went to school, got a
Mhm.
degree in. So give me something that I can do. And I had no skills. I literally went through college never touching a computer. I had no idea anything about it. But somehow I managed to get a job where they said, well, you can learn on the job, kind of. And I'm like, okay. And then I spent the next 25 years doing it. So if that's manifesting, then great. But I just think I just put it in my mind what I'm going to do, and I think it's me
Mhm.
going to the path that I need to go. But and back then, I never thought of or considered that that was some sort of manifestation. And it
Right.
could be that I'm just a different generation, and that terminology just never was in our vernacular. We didn't talk that way. You just made things happen for yourselves. Is how we looked at it.
Well, I looked for myself. Yeah, I guess I would say manifestation was probably not the terminology that I would have used. Um, but I look at my situation when we had gotten off the road full time. We had opened up a little store for animal nutrition. Okay. And literally within the first 1 or 2 years that we were in there, something deep, deep down inside kept yelling at me, you're going to create a wellness center for animals. You're going to have a lot more services. You're going to be able to help these animals. And it was a major, I was driven. I mean, I was really forcefully driven to make this happen. And so when I mentioned that we're gonna build a wellness center for animals, everybody in my family is like, "You're nuts, crazy. We don't have any money to do this. How are you gonna do?" No, never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. Well, I didn't. I went with my gut, kept pursuing it. We ended up finding a location. We built a location and we created a wellness center. And right off the bat, we had chiropractic doctor, we had acupuncture, we had veterinarians, we had grooming, we had, and then of course all the animal nutrition that we would do. And I would look back and say, see, I told you this was going to
Mhm.
happen. And that was probably my biggest manifestation that I think I've ever had. So once you do it, once you see that you have the ability to do it, now it's exciting because now it's like, okay, what else can I manifest? you know.
Yeah. But it also puts things into perspective too, if you're that powerful to manifest things into your own life,
Mhm.
then what happens when you make somebody mad and all they do is think bad thoughts when they think about you? They're
Mm.
putting that out there too. And so, one thing I like to tell, you know, we have a stepson that's struggling a lot, and he likes to brag about what he's going to do.
Mm.
And I've told him this as well, everybody that knows you fail at everything that you do. Everything that you brag about, they know that you're going to fail. And so the best thing for you to do is to not tell anybody anything. Just do it. Because if you tell them and then they all are instantly, if you have 50 people say, oh, he's going to fail, he's going to fail, he's going to fail,
Mhm.
that's going to make you fail even more. He might not intend to fail, but now you have all that energy pushed at you that you are going to fail. And it does affect you. It does
So
affect you.
so that's that cause and effect in a way, in a roundabout way. you
Yeah.
know um the question came up, like especially during this weird weather. Okay, we're having a lot of weird weather. You can't deny that there is weird weather.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll throw out there asking for protection. Please protect our farm, please protect all of our animals, please protect us. um And like last night, we were right on the cusp of those nasty, nasty storms. I don't know if you got hit, Lisa, or not, but I know I was about an hour west today, and they got hammered with a storm. So I was asking for protection, make sure that nothing bad happens during these storms. And then I was asked, well, okay, so you're protecting yourself, but what about the people that are in the path of the storm then? Is there a cause and effect where I'm protecting us, but maybe they're not being protected? And my comment was, well, that's really not my problem. I mean, those people need to ask for protection as well. I guess, it's probably not a very spiritual thing to say. I mean, I'm hoping so like last night I was like, okay, please protect everybody during these storms, everybody around. And I think that was probably the best thing to say. Please protect all of us. We don't want to see anybody hurt in these.
Well, I look at protection a little bit differently. If we're all made in God's image, which means technically we're all God, then we all have the power to protect ourselves.
Mhm.
We all have that God spark that's inside of us. So what I do is, instead of asking, it's the same thing. When you're asking for protection, you're putting it out there in the universe that you're not protected in the first place. And when you continue to ask and again, you're putting it out there. I'm still not protected. I'm still not protected. So if you just envision that spark expanding around you, expanding around your house, around your property, around your loved ones, and just make yourself feel like you're already protected, that's the most powerful way that you can protect yourself.
Well, that's a good point, because when I'm traveling a distance, every time I get in a vehicle, I ask for protection in my travel. So you're saying that that's actually not a good thing to do.
Well, just all you do is expand that, the white lights, expand the white light around you, and just envision yourself driving in a bubble of white light and knowing that you're protected. You don't have to be scared of anything,
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
I just look at things, I guess, from a different perspective. It's like I'm not always asking for things. I'm the kind of person, I guess I grew up, you just didn't ask for a lot, but you were always thankful for what you got. And so I always I'm very, like I come home from traveling, I'm not fearful that somebody's going to do something or I'm going to get in an accident, because I do think you put that out there, you draw it towards yourself.
Sure.
When I get home, I'm like, thank you very much for keeping me safe and whatever else. Because I feel like the one thing we don't do enough of is being thankful. And I'm not just talking about thankful to God, but thankful to everybody. Mm-hmm. I had this really different situation. I advertise on the local board, you give away things or you sell things. And I was giving away stuff. I'm trying to clean up my garage. And so I'm just like, here, you want this, take this. And the lady messaged me. She said, I'm going to come pick it up at 1:30. And I said, great. I'll leave it in a bag outside, because I knew people don't like coming knocking on your door, and that's okay. So I told her where it was. And then she sent me a message back, check the rock by the bush where I left the thing. And I did. She brought a thank you note, and she actually put money in there, even though I was giving it away for free. Nice. To me, that's a beautiful human. So I just feel like her energy made my whole day. Just that one act of kindness. It wasn't a lot of money. I mean, it was just her being that thoughtful. They're the kind of acts that I find that are missing these days.
Yeah.
Now she's got me thinking, when somebody else offers something that I want, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write a note, give a little bit of cash, because it's not that much money, but it's the act, it's the thought, it's the kindness that you share with other people.
Right.
So somebody just posted in the chat, said I was going to say something similar, be in gratitude for continued safety.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to praying over your food as well. Especially with the plant. Cleve Baxter, I think it was in the 70s, did work with plants and discovered that they are conscious. They do react. They have reactions to if another plant gets cut or harmed, all the other ones are screaming for that, along with the plant.
And I did that tonight. I was cutting chives to go on our baked potatoes tonight. And as I was getting ready to cut them, I said, may I cut you, please? Because we need you for dinner tonight. And thank you so much for providing us with food. So I was, because like all I can think of is them screaming because
That's what
We
I
do
think of
that. We
too.
actually name the plants. We go down and, we'll have, like green beans. We do hydroponics. So I got green beans and they're beautiful beans growing up. And I call it Mr. Bean or, chives, how you doing today? We have cauliflower growing. We call her Collie. And we talk to them because I feel that they are a life form.
They
They
are.
can't talk back. I can't hear them, but I have a feeling there's energy passing back and forth between us. And when they're beautiful, why not tell them they're beautiful? And I always wondered how a vegan can get away with saying they can't eat animals because it's cruel, but they can eat the vegetables that still are a life form. I'm still having trouble with that when I need somebody to explain that. But I think that's true with all living things. If we
Yes.
give thanks, if we honor them in such a way, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in now.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
have you ever seen, they actually put, and Lisa, you'd be a good one to do this, to try this, but they put some kind of something attached to a plant, and then you can hear the frequency. It would actually like make music,
Yeah.
almost like sing, right? Yeah.
We've
Yep.
done that with trees and everything too.
Yeah.
It's just nature is just so beautiful, and I don't
Mhm.
think people give it enough appreciation. I think again they take it for granted.
Yeah.
Everybody just walks by blindly, and especially nowadays because they're all in their own little 3 foot space.
Mhm.
How do we get them out of their 3 foot space? Yes, it's their own journey, but if we live by example, I do think that makes a difference.
Right.
Yeah. Well, going
Well,
back to the plants real quick, what Tammy said when she, approached the chives, that's what you're supposed to do because that's what Cleve Baxter proved in his work was that when you inform the plant what you're going to do beforehand, the plant becomes submissive and it doesn't scream. It allows you to do it and it even provides more nutrients to you as well. So
right.
that's pretty cool. And then going back to with the animals, the Native Americans, how they used to respect, I'm
Mhm.
sure they still do today. They respect the animal's life and they thank
Mhm.
it for
Yeah.
giving its life. And another thing I found too about the animals, which kind of makes it a little better for me, is and I kind of feel like it could be true, but like I said, you have to take everything with a grain of salt anymore. We have to discover these things for ourselves. But somebody said that um, if an animal is loved by a human, so even a farm animal is loved and treated well by a human, then
Mhm.
it gets to come back as a human in the next life.
Oh, I hadn't
So,
heard that.
I've heard that. Yeah. I wasn't sure I believed it yet or not, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm out
my
there
ex
loving all
said,
the animals I can because they're so much better than some of the people I'm with.
Well,
yeah,
and part of caring for the farm animals and thanking them for being a food source for us, by doing that it keeps that stress level down because if they're being transported thousands and thousands of miles away, that is a massive stress, and that is actually stressing out the meat that you're eating as well. um
yes,
yeah, I was looking, we have another comment. That people won't eat an animal because it has a cute face, but only eat fruit or veggies that look pretty. That's a good statement because we've been talking a lot about this lately. Is we grow chemical free produce, and sometimes those tomatoes just do not look the best, or they have that little
yeah.
bug hole in it, or the peaches that we grew last year. We grew some of them. They were ugly. They were really ugly, but they tasted really good. And we've got to get out of this mindset that you have to have that perfect looking red tomato or that perfect apple, because what are they doing? What are they doing genetically to modify them to make them that way in the first place? And if you've ever eaten an ugly tomato, it
Oh, it's so
usually
good.
tastes 1,000 times better than the crap that you buy in the grocery store. So it's a huge mindset change that people need to get out of, that it has to look pretty.
Well,
And yet
it's
what's that?
even it's not only with food and stuff, it's with people. All
Mhm.
these stinking filters that make you look like you're a freaking professional model and made up. I was just watching videos on TikTok today, and now there's a movement going around where the women will put that filter on and then they're like, "Now look, this is really me." And they're like, "When I first saw the real me, I really hated myself because I wanted to look like the
Right.
fake person in the filter, but this is really who I am, and we
Yeah.
need to start learning to love
Yep.
ourselves for who we really are. So I look horrible today. I don't care. I don't have hardly any makeup. I've been traveling all weekend,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so
Yep.
just whatever. Put a filter on me if
Don't
you
you
want,
think
I guess.
that's a symptomology of the world we live in? We
Mhm.
live in a fake world.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, just
Yeah.
about everything is fake.
Yeah.
Going back to last week, I'm still saying that wasn't a real eclipse, but that's just me. I still think the guy in the projection booth was doing his thing.
Right.
But we live in a world that almost nothing is what it seems to be, and we have to learn, and people are going to have to cope with it. That's going to be the hard part. People saying, "Well, I can't believe they lied to us. I can't believe that." Well, they lie. They, being the powers that be, wherever in the world you are, lie to you
Mhm.
because that's what they're paid to do by the
Right.
people who run them. So all these lies have got to come to light, and people have got to start dealing with them,
Mhm.
and that will hopefully break them out of this whatever mold they're in where they're sad or fearful or whatever.
Mhm.
Start looking at things straight on, asking what the truth is and stepping out and dealing with it.
Right.
This is what frustrates me is people who won't deal with the truth. You say something, I don't want to talk about that. I can't hear that. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to ignore
Right.
it the rest of your life? That's
Right.
just ridiculous to me. But I
Yeah,
kind of like
especially
the
when it
truth.
comes down to some oh, sorry. Especially when it
No,
comes down to something as bad as, like, the human trafficking and stuff.
Mhm.
Oh,
oh,
I
God,
don't Lewis was just saying that the other day. He despises when people say that as well. I don't wanna hear that.
Right.
It'll just ruin
Right.
my day. Oh, it'll ruin your effing day.
Yeah.
What are
Right.
you gonna be doing to these
PFD
poor
is what
little
Right.
I
kids,
would say to
you
them.
Kids.
know?
Yeah. So
Yep.
what? It ruins everybody's
Yep.
day because this is still happening.
Yep.
If we
Yeah.
could step up and say, stop that, we won't accept it. We demand justice, or we demand this be taken care of in whatever fashion that it's going to curtail it to the point that it stops. That's the only way we're going to do it. If you're having a bad day, that's on you. But these other people are having a bad life, and you should really get out there and use your voice, if nothing else. Use your powers to
Yeah.
express your dissatisfaction.
Right. Well,
That
that just
does fire me up. Sorry.
no, it just brought something up. I don't typically do a whole lot on Facebook, but something popped up locally because there was a horrific accident early this morning. And so the people in the next town over were talking about this, and somebody asked a question in the town Facebook page. I'm looking for somebody to take care of my 2-year-old child for a few days, for whatever. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're asking complete strangers to babysit your 2-year-old child, uh,
Mhm.
for any given number of days. I'm like, this is the kind of thing, like, people need to wake up. I mean, this is not that kind of society that you can just trust anybody, especially with all the human trafficking. That's the first thing that popped into my head as soon as I saw she posted this. I'm like, yeah, you're just setting that up for a human, for a child abduction right there.
Yeah, and
And
those
then
people are
that's a lack of common
professionals.
sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
these people are professionals as well. They know how to put on a happy face. They
Oh
know
my
how to
God.
portray
Yeah.
themselves as somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, most of these people that we look up to in society, not
Mhm.
specifically us, but everybody. I'm sure there are so many evil people that you don't even know about that
Right.
walk right beside you every
That's
freaking
right.
day,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
What I can't stand is the idolatry that people have. They look at, and I'm going to use names tonight, they look at Kardashians and they think, oh, what fabulous lives. I'm sorry, they're fake.
Hmm.
They're totally fake.
Fake boobs
They've
too.
been scripted and tucked, and whoever knows
Yeah.
who's real and who's not real. Let's just put it that way. If that's what you idolize, then you need to kind of relook at your
Mhm.
life and see what is valuable, because that is just ridiculous. In my world, the only thing that gets idolized is God. That's it.
Well, that's all part of that programming. In the magazines, you have this beautiful model in this bikini with the perfect body, and then you got all these kids who were trying to, not eating and doing all kinds of things to make their body look the same way. And it goes back to, you just got to start loving yourself. This is the human vessel that we chose, apparently. So we've got to,
Well, and
love
they
it.
were all photoshopped, come to find out now,
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
that all these unrealistic goals that you were fighting in your mind. Why don't I look like Miss
Right.
Perfect on the
Right.
magazine? I'm
Right.
dieting and starving myself and
Yeah.
exercising, and you still never looked like that person because they were fake. They were
Right.
photoshopped,
Right.
Look at the
Or
lies of
clones.
Victoria's Secret. How many women thought, I've got to be that thin, I've got to be that voluptuous, and the secret is out. They're not
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
So, no, you don't want to look like that. I mean, how ridiculous have we been as a society? We have been programmed, like you said,
Mhm.
to the point that we go to ridiculous lengths.
Mhm.
And why aren't we just happy with our lives? Because I think if we start being happy with what we have, we'd actually, like you said, we'd manifest more. I don't get the whole thing. So, yeah, it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So what do you guys think about the energies? I heard the Schumann resonance was like off the charts again the other day. Are you feeling, I've been hearing a lot of people, because I've been feeling it, very exhausted. I'm in and out, where, some days I'm usually, once I'm up and once I'm awake, I am go, 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 go until it's time for bed. And then I'm crashed. Well, now it's been like, 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, after I've been going, 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 I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. It just drains, very, very drained. Are you feeling that as well?
Yeah, I'm feeling things are topsy turvy for me. I can't sleep well at night. It's like I can be exhausted and I'm waking up every hour, every 2 hours. I'm like, what is wrong?
Yeah.
And then I wake up in the morning and I'm exhausted. And so I have to gear myself up. And then, I go exercise or, go outside or something, get myself charged up. And then I can go and I'm fine. And then the same thing happens. I get really tired. I'm ready to crash and I can't sleep.
Hmm.
And I'm not
Yep.
thinking about things. It's not like something's on my mind. It's just
Yep.
the energy. I feel like there is some sort of energy that keeps popping in. And like
Yep.
I'm either totally drained and I want to go to sleep. And then when I do, I can't stay asleep. And I'm like,
Right.
what is going on? It's just totally
Yeah.
topsy turvy for me.
Yeah. That's how I've been. I lay down in bed because I'm exhausted, and then I'm laying there and I'm like, okay, well, now I'm wide awake. Now what do I do?
I should give you a call. Maybe we could talk each other to sleep.
Right. Text each other.
I usually wake up in the middle of the night too, and Sean will be like, "Do I stink or something? Why are you always on the couch when I wake up?" Not all the time, but I can't really judge the past few days. I pulled an all-nighter on Friday to get my pyramids done, and then I left here at 1:30 in the morning from Pennsylvania and drove to Cincinnati, Ohio. I got there at 8 o'clock in order to set up for the expo, and
Mhm.
yeah, just got back a little bit ago.
That's as bad as jet lag.
Yeah.
It does feel like jet
Yeah.
lag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Absolutely.
going back to what we're talking about, the energies that you were talking about, I really do feel, and I hear from, my husband says the same thing. He like, feel really weird today. Nothing's
Mhm.
going on, but all of a sudden it's like either you feel really down and like he's
Mhm.
not a sad guy. He's kind of out there all the time, but he's like, I really feel sad today. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, where'd that come from? Nothing
Right.
bad happened. Or it's like, I'm so tired. I just can't work on
Yeah.
anything today. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is really some kind of energy is going on
Mhm.
that's really affecting us.
Well, I think it's also geared to slow us down.
Hmm.
To make us just slow down in life, be present in the now moment. Uh, I think our animals try to teach us that all the time, and I see it with my dogs. If I'm just go 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 go, like they're like all over me, and then it actually makes it worse for me because I'm like, stop, get out of my way. I got to go do that. But I've got to stop and say, wait a minute. They're trying to tell me just sit down, just calm down, relax. Take a breath.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. Um, I've been hearing a lot of people, and I had this a couple months ago as well. I've never had an ear infection in my life that I
Mhm.
ever remember having. And the other month, all of a sudden, I had this ear infection. And I'm like, what is this? I thought it was a tooth, because it was way down deep and I was having trouble even eating. So I'm taking my colloidal silver, gone within 2 days, all gone. It was beautiful. And then it came back in the other ear, like about several weeks later. And I'm like, what is going on? So colloidal silver done. It was, it was over with. Now I have people coming in saying, what do I do for an ear infection? I've been hearing, I have like a handful of people that have been coming in with ear infections. And I'm like, what is this? And the ringing of the ears. A lot of times Bruce will be like, oh, I'm getting it. Well,
Download.
we say downgrade. We laugh.
I always call it a
Downgrade.
download. Yeah.
He's like,
Well,
oh, I
the
guess we're
same
getting a
thing
downgrade.
happened here with Charlie's eye. He got
Yes,
whatever it is.
conjunctivitis. Yep.
Yeah, we think it's conjunctivitis, but it literally won't go away. Using the colloidal silver, we moved on and added in eye bright and raspberry tea with it. So we're trying to get it from all angles. But he hasn't had anything like that since a kid. And I'm saying, is it the chemtrails? Because we have been bombarded by chemtrails. I mean,
especially with the eclipse. The
Mhm.
eclipse they were out.
Yep.
It has been so bad that I sneeze now, just out of nothing. There's nothing around. I'm not allergic to anything, and I'm sneezing. And he's got this eye thing. I'm like, something is going on in the atmosphere that's triggering all these things.
Right.
So we have a comment that said, I had a bad day Saturday, enough to be thinking about quitting my job. Today I've been focusing on what I have to learn from it.
Nice.
Good.
Very
That's
good.
awareness. That's excellent.
Yep. And I encourage anyone to follow your passion. If there is a passion that you have, take the risk, figure it out ahead of time here, but take the risk and be your own sovereign person. I think maybe what's going to happen here down the road is that, this whole going to, going to work, your 9 to 5 job or your 7 to 3 or whatever the case it may be, is going to come to an end. I think we're going to have to start being our own person and figuring out, how do you want to help, humanity? What do you want to do?
And I think that's what they're gearing up with AI. So many jobs are going to go away because AI can take over a lot of the jobs. You won't need writers for television shows. AI can do it. I think AI has probably been doing it all along because they're all formulaic anyway.
Yeah.
And all people who value themselves by the job they hold are going to be the ones that are going to have the most difficult time. And I think that's why it's important to start looking at your passion right now, because maybe your job won't be there. And rather than being devastated by it, you'll be prepared to step into what you want to do, and you'll love it. I mean, the best thing that ever happened to me is leaving the corporate world and opening up my own business, because I control it. I get to say when I work, when I don't work, who I work with, how much I do.
Right.
And it's never about the money. It's always about the satisfaction. And I think that's what's really important. I don't know how many people who have 9 to 5 jobs are really satisfied with them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look back on, we had this conversation the other day as well, that, we can, if we want to go someplace, say we want to go to an expo, we just close our market, tell everybody ahead of time, hey, we're going to be closed. We're going to go do this, and we're going to go do it. We don't have to ask for permission. We don't have to spend our 2-week vacation. We just can do what we want to do, which is why, it is just it's very freeing,
Yeah.
And don't you find you enjoy your customers so much more
Oh my
because
gosh, yeah.
you're not being told by a boss how to treat the customers
That's
or
right.
what to do? That's the way I feel about my own business.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I mean, I'm upfront with a client. If it's not a match, I'll say, I don't think I'm right for you, but I may know somebody and I'm happy to refer them to somebody else.
Right.
But at the same time, when I take on a client, it's like, the energy that's passed back and forth, it's just so worthwhile for me. It's not ever about the money.
Right.
It's always about the energy, the feeling of excitement, working with somebody, helping somebody along their journey. It's so much better than anything else I've ever done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing I ever did was quit my job. I was working in the restaurant business for 25 years. Finally found a great management position because they never paid, me well enough to become a manager when I was a single mom. And I was an event manager for several years and loved it. And one day I remember saying to the owner of the company, I was like, don't you think there's something more to life than this? And he looked at me like I was a crazy loon, and I just 2 weeks later, I put my notice in and quit my job and didn't have anything to fall back on. It was the scariest thing that I ever
Mhm.
did.
Yep.
But it wasn't until I opened up that spot again
Yep.
for the real jobs in my life to find me. And I
Right.
had within a week, I had 3 part-time jobs working half the amount of hours, making the same amount of money.
Right.
And they
That's
were
right.
all fulfilling jobs. And it
Yep.
just escalated from there.
That's one of the things that I notice is that, you're stuck in that, biweekly paycheck. You know what you're getting each, every 2 weeks. When
Yeah.
you become self-employed, you are the one who figures out how much are you going to be making. Well, I mean, with customer base and stuff like that, you don't really know. It is a huge risk, but you're going to find that you're going to make a lot more money being self-employed than you did working in that typical job anyway. In most
It gets
cases.
back to the fear base.
Yep.
People are afraid because that's all they know.
That's right.
This is what I do. This is how I identify myself. I am a whatever your job is. Well,
Right.
that's really not who you are.
Right.
That's something you do.
Right.
And people say, I can't leave my job. How am I going to pay the bills? How am
Right.
I going to? Well, if you start thinking about what you're passionate about
Mhm.
and you can make it happen, like we
Yep.
talked about
Yep.
manifesting,
Yep.
it's out there. You just have to go try it. And the fear is what's holding you
Yep.
back. You
Yep.
need to let go of the fear.
And we've all done it, and we'll all be the first ones to say it is fearful. I mean, it is really, really, really scary, leaving that job and not having that consistent paycheck every other week or every week, whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. But you figure it out, and it's also a great learning experience because you're going to figure out what works and what doesn't. So if this isn't working, just let it go and do something else, or add to it. So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So yeah. Oh, and then the comment was, "Do I have to accept the download when it comes through?"
I
There's
guess
this
you don't have to, but I kind of like it. I think hopefully I'm learning something new.
Well, that's what we hope, but we've been having conversation about, I never signed that contract.
Yep.
So, what else out there do you want to speak about unfiltered and uncensored in our last few minutes?
Lisa, you have anything else?
The only thing I just want to leave people with is that we need to start tapping into our true power. I've said this multiple times, they don't just put the rat trap out once and kill us dead. They're poisoning us from every avenue, our water, our food, our air, the frequencies around us, the things we watch on TV, the things we listen to. It's all poison, and we're still drudging on. And that should show people just how
Mhm,
powerful we really are as human beings.
mhm.
And like it on our conspiracy show a couple weeks ago, when I got to the why, it was you. You are the conspiracy. And it is true. You're the biggest conspiracy here because we are way so powerful. I can only imagine. I think I said this before. I think we could probably fly.
We need to do a segment then on how do we come into our power? How does someone literally come into or feel that power? Because maybe people need to hear this, you know?
Well, absolutely. It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. I really think getting a medium, a reading from a powerful medium, and a healing from a powerful healer, and
Mhm.
experiencing those two things will prove to you that there's no death. That will eliminate so much fear, and that'll give you the courage to start stepping up and doing things into the world.
Yep.
It's going to be the catalyst that launches you forward, and then hopefully you want to start teaching. And I'm going to do a call to action. Other healers out there, other mediums out there. How many times have you told any of your clients that they can do this too?
Mhm.
Probably hardly
Yeah.
ever.
No, I have.
I've never heard anybody. Yeah.
I
You
have.
have heard somebody say that?
No, 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 I
Yeah.
have. I've told people when they're like, "Well, I need a healing." Well, you can do this. You
Yeah.
have the ability to do this. You don't need to have all the training, you know, to do this. We all can do it. And we've done it before where we just held our hands up and
Yeah.
really visualized, the energy and I'm telling you, I felt it. Some
Yeah.
people say that they felt it.
Well,
Well,
just
I know
doing
I
groups.
come.
Oh, go ahead, Angela.
But I was just talking about that. I've come from again a different age, and I come from a different background where for me, I've never had a reading by a medium, and it's only been in the last year or so that I've actually had like a healing experience with sound healing, which was wonderful, I must say. And I was very pleased to hear that my energy is flowing well. But throughout my whole life, what I've had are traumas, and I don't want to detail them, but since I was a child, I've had traumas, loss of people, accidents, physical trauma, mental trauma. And what I think brought me around, one is my beliefs, my faith in God. And each time it made me stronger. And I think that's how I've always felt sovereign. That once I got past the worst trauma, basically losing my family, it said, okay, you're on your own. What are you going to do about it? And that's the kind of thing I think people don't want to face. But if you face it, you can overcome any trauma, any tragedy. You can overcome it as long as you have, I believe, someone greater than you that you can go to in time of need. Because when you have no one else, he's always there.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's part of what's going on with these energies too, is that and this has been going on for years. This is nothing new, is that all of that baggage from previous lives and this life and all that stuff just keeps drudging up and coming up and coming up. And we've got to learn to see it, recognize it, and release it so
Yeah,
that
you
we
cut
can,
your ties with it.
yep, yep.
Somebody
And
said,
learn
would
from
love
it.
to do
Learn.
a podcast on healing methods.
Yes. Yes. We definitely will do some healing, some other healing
Well,
methods.
that's what I was going to say real quick. We could even just do a group meditation with a focused intent
Mhm.
and see how that works and manifests for everybody. They've done this in groups before. A
Mhm.
group of meditators will sit around a body of polluted water with the
Mhm.
focused intention, just thinking the water is clean. That's their intention.
Mm-hmm.
Envisioning the water to be clean, and they clean the pollution from the water.
Right.
Simply as a group consciousness, focusing their intent. That's how powerful
Right.
we are.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of cool things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Any last words, ladies? We're over the hour.
Nope. I think we're getting some good comments about some more
Yeah.
healing with different ways of how we can empower ourselves.
Right.
I think
Let's just put it out there. If people have suggestions, they can email us at sovereignsisters@proton.me, and we'll take in consideration and we'll put together podcasts based on your input
yeah. Or put it in the comments of the
of
feed.
the video.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we
All right,
appreciate the
everyone.
fact that people were commenting tonight.
Yeah.
We love that. We want to
Yeah.
do more of that. And
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for coming, and come back next week. We really look
Yep.
forward to having you here.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. See ya. Have a good
Much
night.
love.